Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Using dynamic blocks can significantly improve your workflow by giving you more control and flexibility over your designs. But what if your blocks don't behave the way you want them to? In today's video, I'm going to show you how to create dynamic blocks that behave intuitively. This technique will allow your blocks to adapt based on different conditions, making them more versatile and efficient for all kinds of projects, whether it's architecture, mechanical design, or any other discipline. By the end of this video, you'll be able to create blocks that behave the way you think they should. Let's get started and add some intelligence to your blocks now. One of the common complaints that I get from people who create their own blocks is that when they do something like a stretch action, that the insertion point doesn't necessarily update to give them the result that they intend. For example, if I look at this block in this drawing here, it's got an insertion point that's on the midpoint of the back of this park bench. And then my stretch action is down here on the bottom right hand side, so that if I click on this grip, I can change the length of that bench. But as I do, the insertion point doesn't update, so it's no longer in the middle of that bench, but it's still kind of off to the side. And that's not intuitive. It's not the way we think that should work. So in this video, I'm going to show you two different ways of changing that so that you can make your blocks work the way you want. So let's take a look at how I constructed this block. I'm going to go to the block editor and I'm going to say, let's edit this block right here. You'll see that I have, let me get this off the screen. I have a few things going already. I have my linear parameter called bench length, and it has a value set, an incremental value set, so that it will stretch from 48 to 72 inches in 6-inch increments. And there's my stretch frame, and of course I've picked all of those objects in the middle. But the thing that doesn't stretch is my base point, my insertion point right there. And so what I want to do is I want to add another parameter or another action that's going to move that base point for me, and we'll do it with the stretch action. So we'll go to the action tab here, and I'll choose stretch. It's going to ask me for which parameter I want to associate it with. Again, I'm going to use that same parameter, and I still want it associated with this end over here, so I'll click. Then it asks me for the first corner of my stretch frame. And what I want to do is I want to make a stretch frame that goes around that base point, and then the thing that I want to stretch is that base point. So I'll just pick the base point there. When I'm done, I press enter, and you'll see that it creates that second stretch action right here, okay? But at this point, if I stretch this one 6 inches, this one's also going to move 6 inches, and I actually want it to move half of that distance. So what you'll do next is you'll come in here and you will access your properties tool palette, your properties palette, and you'll say, okay, for this stretch action, the second one, I'm going to come in here and I want to change my distance multiplier. Right now the distance multiplier is 1, so if I stretch this 6 inches, my insertion point is going to move 6 inches. But if I change this value to 0.5 and press enter, then if this one moves 6 inches, then this one's going to move 3 inches. And that's all you have to do. So I'll just simply say, okay, press escape, close the block editor, save the changes. Let me get rid of this for a moment. And now you'll see that I've got this block that when I insert it, okay, there's my insertion point. It still looks exactly the same as it did before. But when I stretch it now, as I stretch it out, my insertion point moves so that it's still in the middle of that block. Okay, so I can come in here and I can change whatever size I want it to be, or I can insert more blocks and have them all be separate. But no matter where I put that length, my insertion point is going to be on the back middle. So that's great as long as you don't mind that your insertion point moves. But the other way to do this is to make it so that the insertion point stays stable and then the bench gets longer in both directions. That's a little bit more complicated, but definitely doable. So let's take a look at how we would do that instead. I'm going to set this one back to the normal distance here. And again, we'll go into the block editor. So I'll say, let's go to the block editor here. I'm going to modify this bench one more time. And I'm going to make a few changes. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of both of these stretch actions. And I'm going to modify this parameter, my linear parameter, so that my value set now is every 3 inches, and it's going to go from 48 to let's see, 48, 51, 54, 57. We'll say 57. And enter. So now, there we go. I could probably actually go to 60, but we'll leave it at 57 for now. Okay, so that's that one. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add that stretch action back in on this side. So I'll say I want the stretch action. I'm going to associate it with this parameter and that point right there. I'll make my stretch window, and then I'll select the items that I want to stretch. Okay, and enter, and now that's good. If I test my block, you'll see that it does exactly what I expect it to do. It's going to get longer only on this one end. Okay, what I need to do now is I need to make another action so that it stretches this one as well. So I'm going to add a second stretch action. I'm going to associate it with that same parameter and the same grip. I'm going to make my stretch window on this one on this side, and I'm going to stretch all of those objects right there. Okay, press enter. Now if I were to stop there, it still wouldn't do quite what I want it to do. When I test the block, it's going to make this end stretch, but the other end is going to stretch in the same direction. So it's kind of just like a move. That's not what I want. So what I need to do is I need to modify this second stretch action right here so that it goes the other direction. Again, using our change properties palette here, I'm going to pick that second stretch action, and on this I'm going to say my angle offset, instead of going at an angle of 0, I want it to go at an angle of 180 degrees, which is opposite of 0. Doing that right there will make, when I stretch this one to the right, this one's going to stretch to the left. So I can say close the block editor, save the changes, and now when I come in here to move or to stretch this block, both sides get longer and the midpoint stays where it is. So 2 different ways of making your blocks adaptive and adding that intelligence to those blocks.